Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are back with more members of the Supreme Court. We are now looking at the new justices today, two new justices that joined the Supreme Court under Morrison Waite's role as Chief Justice. As always, I have the handy dandy notebook. Where I tried to take my notes. So, with that said, let's get into this a bit here. The first new associate judge under Morrison Waite was John Marshall Harlan. He was born on June the 1st, 1833 in Boyle County, Kentucky, which is just west of Danville, Kentucky. And he was born to James Harlan and Elizabeth Davenport. His father, James Harlan, was a slave-owning lawyer and represented Kentucky in the U.S. House of Representatives, and he even served as the Secretary of State in Kentucky. So he was part of a family that was part of aristocracy, you could say, a well-to-do family in Kentucky, because John Harlan, he owned slaves. He was a lawyer. He had been a member of the United States House of Representatives and was the Attorney General for Kentucky. So yeah, I mean, these were fairly, more than likely, well-to-do people. Now, John Marshall Harlan would be named after the former United States Chief Justice John Marshall. Remember, we talked about Marshall and the importance he had as Chief Justice, setting so many consistencies and everything. You know, he really set kind of the standard for the Supreme Court as the Chief Justice. Now, he grew up with numerous elder brothers older than he was. But one of them was a brother of mixed race. So, child of his father and one of the slaves, female slaves. And that mixed race half brother was raised in the house with the rest of the family, and even tutored by two of the other older brothers of John Marshall Harlan's. So, even though he was of mixed heritage, he was still recognized as being of the same family, and thus treated better than would be expected. And it's believed this had a bit of an influence on John Marshall Harlan in a number of his cases, including perhaps one of the more important ones he presided over, Plessy versus Ferguson. And yeah, because he ruled against the others in the court in the eventual ruling on Plessy versus Ferguson. So, now, he would graduate Center College with honors and then studied law at Transylvania University before joining his father's law practice. So he gets a degree at Center College, then goes, instead of, a lot of the earlier justices, they would read law under lawyers usually to begin with, but he went and actually got law training at a different college, Transylvania University, which in and of itself was, I can't remember exactly. It's in the U.S. though. Don't think Transylvania as in Dracula or anything like that. This was an actual university in the U.S. So yeah. But yeah, he would then go and join his father's law practice. So he was working with his father, who was a lawyer. So now he would criticize actually both abolitionists and pro-slavery figures and voices. So he had no problem criticizing those on both sides of the question of slavery. So, but he fought to keep Kentucky from seceding because that's the one thing he wanted. He wanted Kentucky to stay in the Union. Eventually, his best option would be backing the Union, even though Kentucky was a border state during the war. It ended up Kentucky did not join the Confederacy, but it was a border state. Kentucky, Maryland, Delaware, and later there'd be the formation of West Virginia. Those were considered the border states. I think it was that they were the states that allowed slavery, but they didn't secede with the other slave-owning states. But yeah. Anyway, he would join the 10th Kentucky Infantry with the Union in the Civil War and serve until the death of his father, at which time he would return. He would serve as Attorney General for a bit for Kentucky. And then he would join the Republican Party, and he would run for a number of offices unsuccessfully, but he would also work to strengthen the party now that he was a part of it and it had won the war. So, following the retirement of Associate Justice David Davis on the Supreme Court, new or semi-new President Rutherford B. Hayes would nominate John Marshall Harlan to the Supreme Court on October the 16th, 1877. And it would be the next month, November the 29th, 1877, at which time he was confirmed by the Senate. And with that, he would take his oath of office for the Supreme Court on December the 10th, 1877, officially putting him in position. And he would serve a long time, almost 34 years, precisely 33 years and 308 days, and would die as still a member of the Supreme Court on October the 14th, 1911, while he was still in Washington, D.C. So yeah, that was a look at John Marshall Harlan. The other person we want to look at for this video was the second new associate justice under Morrison Waite, William Burnham Woods. He was born on August the 3rd, 1824 in Newark, Ohio. He would attend Western Reserve University, which nowadays is known as Case Western Reserve University. He would attend, but he would end up transferring to Yale University, graduating with honors. He would read law under S.D. King, and then join his law firm after getting accepted to the bar. But it wouldn't take him long. He would get involved in politics. He would be elected mayor of Newark, Ohio in 1856. Then elected to the Ohio General Assembly in 1858. He was against the Civil War, but was anti-slavery. So he didn't want the Civil War, but he also saw slavery as the evil it was, and would end up supporting the Union. In 1862, he would join the Union Army through the 76th Ohio Infantry. He would leave the Army after the Civil War, making it as far as a full brigadier general. So he got a number of promotions while serving. He would move south to Alabama to reopen his law practice. And while there, he would be appointed to the United States Fifth Circuit Court by President Ulysses S. Grant. So yeah. So he's already getting a federal court position. This was he would get placed in the position, accept the position. Then, while he was still serving on that circuit court, President Hayes nominates Woods to the Supreme Court on December the 15th, 1880, to replace William Strong. He would be confirmed by the Senate on December the 21st, 1880. So, as opposed to John Marshall Harlan, it took Woods only 6 days to get confirmed. So, between being nominated and confirmed. Remember, John Marshall Harlan, it took just over a month. But anyway, he would be confirmed on December the 21st, 1880, and then take the oath of office on January the 5th, 1881. So he got into office fairly quick. But unfortunately, his term would be short. He would serve only 6 years and 129 days, dying while still on the Supreme Court on May the 14th, 1887. So, yeah. But that's a look at two of the justices who were new to the Supreme Court under Morrison Waite. So, yeah, two new associate justices. But that will be it for this episode. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.